You know, we all have our guilty pleasures. Some people are addicted to alcohol, some people are addicted to cocaine. I am addicted to buying guns. Hi guys, Redneck Mini 14 here, and the other day I picked up 3 new to me, handguns from the gun shop. I got all 3 of them on Gunbroker. These 2 here I got from the same seller, and they were both on layaway, so had the high power on layaway for like 5 months, and that one on layaway for like 3 months, and I just paid them off at the same time. And then I found a really good deal on a P94, which I'll go over that here in just a minute. So let's start from left to right, because this is the order in which I actually put them on layaway and stuff. So right here we have a Korean high power. This is an Israeli clone of the Browning high power, or the P35, whatever you want to call it. And from what I've read, this is a Mark I Korean high power. I don't really know all the changes and differences between them, but from what I know, this is a Mark I. It's pretty beat up, but most of the wear, I think, is just, you know, external cosmetic wear. I am going to turn this gun into a project gun, and I'll go over that in another video. But basically, this is just a really beat up high power, although it does seem to be in fairly good condition. Anyway, I paid $419 for this gun, and it was a 5-month layaway, I believe. So not bad, $419 for Browning high power clone. I mean, if you want a good like FN or Browning high power, I mean, you're looking at $800+. This being a copy, you know, there are several other copies out there like FEG and different companies like that. Being a copy, you don't have to pay as much, so that's kind of nice. And it is slightly different from other high powers out there, but it still seems like a pretty good gun. Came with one 15 or 13 round magazine, so standard high power magazine. Interestingly enough, so you have your magazine disconnect like you have on pretty much all other high powers, but the interesting thing is that the magazine actually drops free, which is unusual. Usually Browning high powers and other guns with magazine disconnects don't have drop-free magazines, so that's kind of nice. And then, you know, you have your low profile safety. Your lanyard loop is actually on the bottom, even though there's a spot for it here in the grip cutout, so that's kind of interesting too. Yeah, so I paid $419 for this Korean high power. That's actually the most I've ever paid for any handgun. So I mean, you know, $420 for being the most expensive handgun I own, that's pretty good considering how many handguns I actually own. Next, we have this Smith & Wesson Model 10-8, and I found this from the same seller a couple months later for $359. So you're talking $360 for a good Smith & Wesson. I think this is like a police trade-in or something. They had a few different Smith & Wesson Model 10s and Model 15s. It does have some holster wear here at the end of the barrel. It does have a little bit of rust here that I need to get off of there. But overall, it's a pretty decent Smith & Wesson revolver. You know, it's obviously an older Smith & Wesson. It has the firing pin on the hammer itself, like they did back then. It has a pinned barrel, which that's another way that you know that a Smith & Wesson is an older Smith & Wesson. It didn't come with wood grips. It came with these Packmeyer grips. Now, generally I don't like grips like these, but these actually feel pretty good. And truth be told, if I'm going to go with some aftermarket grips for a revolver or even a semi-auto, I'd go with Packmeyer. I hate Hogue grips. They're just big, ugly pieces of rubber with these giant finger grooves. These finger grooves on this Packmeyer grip, they don't seem too bad. But again, they're not wood. I don't think I'll ever switch them out just because I don't really have a reason to. They feel good to me, and some of those wood grips that they came with were actually like really thin. They would only be like the width of the actual grip frame itself. These actually wrap around the grip frame, give you a bit more purchase. But yeah, so anyway, that was Smith & Wesson Model 10-8. I don't know a whole lot about Smith & Wesson Model 10s and the different designations. I know they had there was a -5, I think, which is also available, but I went with the -8 because it had the thicker barrel profile, which I prefer. So yeah, $359 for that Smith & Wesson Model 10. And then not too long ago, I actually found this. This was not on layaway. This is a Ruger P94. As you know, I'm a big fan of Ruger P-Series pistols. I have a P97, P85, a couple of P89s, and I have a P94 in 40 cal. This is a 9mm, and what drew me to this gun was it came with not one, but 4 magazines. So it came with, let me get these in frame better. So it came with 4 magazines, free shipping, which usually shipping on a gun like this is like $30 or so, $20, $30. Free shipping, 4 magazines with a gun for $290. Nobody else put a bid on this gun. It wasn't buy it now, it was only an auction. Or actually, I think it was a buy it now, but it was like $20 or $30 more for buy it now. So I put in a bid. So I thought that was a really good deal, and it's in really good shape too. It doesn't look like it has been shot much. I think if I remember right, I read in the description that it has like a Wolf hammer spring in here. I don't really notice any difference between the trigger pull on this gun versus any of my other ones, except for maybe my P85. But yeah, so the magazines that it came with are, this one here is actually a Ramline, and I have no experience with Ramline magazines. This is the one that he kept in his gun, when he shipped it. So, I don't know if this is a good magazine or not. I'll have to test it out, but it's a 15-round magazine, from what I can tell. So you got one aftermarket 15-rounder. This one here looks like one of those older Ruger 15-rounders, with the metal base plate and all that. So I imagine this is good for my P85. I haven't tried it yet, but it's the kind that looks like those Mekgar magazines. But again, 15-round magazine, and from what I can tell, it's a factory magazine. And then these are probably the 2 magazines that actually came with the gun when it was bought new. These are 10-round magazines. Of course, I would prefer them to be 15-rounders, but, having 4 magazines come with your gun, I mean, even if 2 of them are 10-rounders, that's still a good deal. So, yeah. Anyway, those are the 3 guns I just picked up, and I do have plans for this one. I'm going to turn this into a project gun, and I'll keep you updated on that. The Smith & Wesson's probably going to be my go-to revolver. I don't have too many revolvers to begin with, but Smith & Wesson Model 10, very common revolver, very common caliber with that 38 special, so that's probably going to be my go-to revolver. And then, of course, the P94. It's going to go with the rest of my 9mm P-series pistols, and it's going to go into circulation with those and being my go-to pistols. And I'll probably do another video explaining all that too. And I'll do reviews on each one of these, more in-depth reviews later on. So anyway, those are my new guns. Subscribe to my channel, like me on Facebook. I'm Redneck Mini 14, and until next time, be safe.